Okay, good morning. Today, or in this presentation, I'd like to talk to you about uh, J. Hector St. de Crevecouer. That's a mouthful. Um, anyway, first thing, he had quite a life, Crevecouer. You can read that on page 604, and even have a town named after him here in America. Okay, the first thing on page 605, letters from American Farmer, about halfway down the page. It is not composed, as in Europe, of great lords who possess everything, and a herd of people who have nothing. Here are no aristocratical families, no courts, no kings, no bishops, no ecclesiastical dominion, no invisible power giving to a few a very visible one. No great manufacturers employing thousands, no great refinements of luxury. The rich and the poor are not so far removed from each other as they are in Europe. Some few towns excepted, we are all tillers of the earth, from Nova Scotia to West Florida. We are a people of cultivators, scattered over an immense territory, communing with each other by means of good roads and navigable rivers, united by the silken bands of mild government, all respecting the laws without dreading their power, because they are equitable. We are all animated with the spirit of an industry which is unfettered and unrestrained, because each person works for himself. Okay, quite different than what's going on in Europe. We talked about the landed gentry and the aristocracy over there. Well, there's none of that here. And that's a good thing, obviously, according to Crevecouer. So, a little more discussion on 607. He goes in and then he asks the question that he is famous for. In the middle of 607, what then is the American, this new man? We have a whole new critter here, folks, according to Crevecouer. Excuse me, I need to change slides. There we go. And he, a little bit below that, he changes. He is an American who leaving behind him all his ancient prejudices and manners, received new ones from the new mode of life he has embraced, the new government he obeys, and the new rank he holds. He becomes an American by being received in the broad lap of our great alma mater. Here, individuals of all nations are melted into a new race of men, whose labors and posterity will one day cause great changes in the world. Americans are the Western pilgrims, who are carrying along with them that great mass of arts, sciences, vigor, and industry which began long since in the East. They will finish the great circle. Okay, couple of important things here. He asked the question, what then is the American, this new man? And he goes on to start telling us what he is. He is an American, and then he goes through a number of qualities that make this man. And this is one of the first times we can see the melting pot idea. We're all coming together to make one. And so far, at this point in history, it's a good thing. Later on, in the latter half of the last century, we think, well, maybe it's not so good. To be just one homogenous group of people. We want to have our cultural differences, and we still want to retain that, but we still want to be Americans. Well, here, we don't necessarily want that which was past, because what is new is much better. And another line is very important. Posterity will one day cause great changes in the world. A lot of people have great hopes and ideas for this country. Over on 608, he goes on to say, the American is a new man who acts upon new principles. He must therefore entertain new ideas and form new opinions. From involuntary idleness, servile dependence, penury, and useless labor, he has passed to toils of a very different nature, rewarded by ample subsistence. This is an American. And he goes on down to say, to help explain for that, a little bit further down the third paragraph, men are like plants. The goodness and flavor of the fruit proceed from the peculiar soil and exposition in which they grow. We are nothing but what we derive from the air we breathe, the climate we inhabit, the government we obey, the system of religion we profess, and the nature of our employment. A little further down, he goes on to continue to show the differences here. In the middle of that last long paragraph there, what do I say? Europe has no such class of men. The early knowledge they acquire, the early bargains they make, give them a degree of sagacity. As free men, they will be litigious. Pride and obstinacy are often the cause of lawsuits. The nature of our laws and governments may be another. So, in other words, those folks in Europe that grew up there, we're going to be different with our citizens and citizenship over here. It's something. It's new, as he keeps saying. New opinions, new ideas. What is an American? This new man. Okay, on 6:10, he goes into religion, and I'm right in the middle of the first full paragraph. If they are peaceable subjects and are industrious, what is it to their neighbors how and in what manner they think fit to address their prayers to the Supreme Being? We are going back now that we don't necessarily have the Bible as our guide for how to live our lives. After Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, thinking of the social contract and the type of government and a person's new role in society, what difference does it make how they worship, as long as all of the other elements of them being good citizens are met? Now further, the next paragraph, it's kind of long, but I'm still going to read it. Let's see, the last full paragraph. Let us suppose you and I to be traveling. We observe that in this house, to the right, there's a Catholic who prays to God as he has been taught and believes in transubstantiation. The word has a footnote. He works and raises wheat. He has a large family of children, all hale and robust. His belief, his prayers offend nobody. About 1 mile further on the same road, this next neighbor may be a good, honest, plodding German Lutheran, who addresses himself to the same God, the God of all, agreeably to the modes he has been educated in, and believes in consubstantiation. By so doing, he scandalizes nobody. He also works in his fields, embellishes the earth, clears swamps, etc. What has the world to do with his Lutheran principles? He persecutes nobody. Nobody persecutes him. He visits his neighbors, and his neighbors visit him. Next to him lives a seceder, the most enthusiastic of all sectaries. His zeal is hot and fiery, but separated as he is from others of the same complexion, he has no congregation. He has no congregation of his own to resort to where he might cabal and mingle religious pride with worldly obstinacy. He likewise raises good crops. His house is handsomely painted. His orchard is one of the fairest in the neighborhood. How does it concern the welfare of the country or the province at large what this man's religious sentiments are, or really whether he has any at all? He is a good farmer. He is a sober, peaceable, good citizen. William Penn himself would not wish for more. So, once again, this is all new. Everybody can worship as they please. The important part is they're good citizens. Down at the bottom of 6:11, persecution, religious pride, the love of contradiction are the food of what the world commonly calls religion. These motives have ceased here. Zeal in Europe is confined. Here it evaporates in the great distance it has to travel. There it is a grain of powder enclosed. Here it burns away in the open air and consumes without effect. In other words, it just fizzles away. Okay, so much for religion. Now a couple more passages here. There's only a couple more. Crevecouer is very straightforward. I'm sure that you've already gotten most of this, but anyway, 6:13 after the break. Europe contains hardly any other distinctions but lords and tenants. This fair country alone is settled by freeholders. The possessors of the soil they cultivate, members of the government they obey, and the framers of their own laws by means of their representatives. Excuse me for the pause. This is a thought which you have taught me to cherish. Our difference from Europe, far from diminishing, rather adds to our usefulness and consequence as men and subjects. Once again, we don't have those lords and tenants over here. We have freeholders. They work the land they own, which makes all the difference in the world. And finally, to sum up here, on 6:14, the last full paragraph before letter 9. After a foreigner from any part of Europe is arrived and become a citizen, let him devoutly listen to the voice of our great parent, which says to him, "Welcome to my shores, distressed European. Bless the hour in which thou didst see my verdant fields, my fair navigable rivers, and my green mountains. If thou wilt work, I have bread for thee. If thou wilt be honest, sober, and industrious, I have greater rewards to confer on thee. Ease and independence. I will give thee fields to feed and clothe thee, a comfortable fireside to sit by, and tell thy children by what means thou hast prospered, and a decent bed to repose on. I shall endow thee beside with the immunities of a free man. If thou wilt carefully educate thy children, teach them gratitude to God, and reverence to that government, the philanthropic government, which has collected here so many men and made them happy, I will also provide for thy progeny. And to every good man, this ought to be the most holy, the most powerful, the most earnest wish they can possibly form, as well as the most consolatory prospect when he dies. Go thou and work until thou shalt prosper, provided thou be just, grateful, and industrious." Boy, almost sounds like you need a really loud amen at the end of that one. But here, this is the land of opportunity, and Crevecouer is really just explaining it very clearly, exactly what we have over here. We do not have anything of the old world ways in Europe, where you have landholders and those that work for him, for them. You don't have a few rich and wealthy and then a lot of very poor. Here in America, there's not that much difference in the rich and the poor. It's kind of like a happy medium, which is something else we're going to hear from Franklin. And also, like Jefferson, Crevecouer touts being tillers of the soil. Remember, Jefferson said, "Those who labor in the earth are the chosen people of God." And Crevecouer, the same thing. We have no great manufactories here employing thousands of people. We don't have that awful air over there and that type of government. Over here we have vast spaces and areas, clean air in which religious dissension can dissipate, and good people as plants can spring up and prosper. Very nice organic metaphor he uses there. Being that a human being a plant and